The sun's shining, birds are singing, and all feels right in the world.
Until the season changes and suddenly you lose your motivation to get out of bed. In fact, 1 in 5 people experience some form of depression, no matter the season or time of year.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, our vision is to build a mentally healthy nation for all, because we want you to live your best life and be your best you all year round.
Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
If something in your relationship feels off, but you can't explain why. If you've spent years trying harder in the relationship, and yet it just keeps hurting, this space is for you. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast. Welcome back to the Covert Narcissism Podcast. This is part 2 of our third CNG community chat. If you missed part 1, it was last week on Thursday, so go back and take a listen to that one and then come right back here. In this episode, we're going to talk about the moment that your eyes get opened, or at least the slow build that gets there, that finally helps you to recognize covert narcissistic abuse for what it is. We're going to talk about how calling out their behavior can actually escalate the anger, how sometimes financial control can appear right before a discard, and why survivors often feel like they're living two lives. One version of themselves at home inside the house trying to keep peace, and another version everywhere else. We're going to talk about what this does to your sense of self. Self-doubt, self-blame, hearing their voice in your head long after you leave, and what healing actually looks like. Reclaiming your identity, rebuilding confidence, learning to trust your gut again. Please know that you're not alone here. We talk about that question, is this really abuse? Because sometimes the most important truth is not the label, it's how it's affecting your spirit. So let's dive in. That leads us right into the next question, which is, was there a moment or was it a slow accumulation when something finally started shifting for you that you could see this as abuse?
Well, for me, it was about 2 years before he left, and the children were sort of 18 and 20 and thinking about getting to university. And I just kept thinking, how am I going to live with this man? How are we going to get along? And actually felt quite frightened to be alone with him. Just to think what he's capable of. He was, he's a big 6'4" man, And so I started to call him out, basically, about 2 years before he left. I was sort of just questioning his behavior. So why did you say that? So you said you were going to do this. So that's going to happen on Thursday, is it? Okay. So what time are we meeting? All that kind of pinning him down on everything he said. And he just became more and more angry.
I was just thinking that probably didn't go over very well.
No, he just became more and more angry and basically was consistently accusing me of being a control freak. So if I was, if you see, the thing is I've always considered myself a woman of my word. If I say I'm going to meet you on Thursday, I'll meet you. And if I don't, I will phone you beforehand and let you know. I'm a good communicator. And so I just, every time I called him out, I kept saying, what's wrong with you? And he'd say, you. That's what's wrong with me. It's you. And I'd say, well, what is it? And he'd say, it's the way you behave. And you'd say, well, what do you mean? If you don't specify what the way I behave, the way I switch the kettle on, or the way I sit on the settee, or, what is it? What behavior are you talking about? And he'd go, oh, my goodness, you drive me insane. You're such a control freak. And he'd just storm off, like a child. And I just got more and more anxious about being on my own with him until and this went on for about a year. And a year before he left, he said, right, I know what the answer is. If you want this marriage to work, I don't want you working. And I had worked throughout the entire marriage, and he had spent a good 20 years studying and trying to get into the tech IT business and whatever. And at this stage, it'd been 31 years, and he was finally earning enough salary for me to not work. So, I thought, oh, happy days. That's it. I can give up work at last. I've worked my backside off for 30 years. Isn't it time that I can just chill and, just, and now, obviously, in hindsight, a year later, he walked out with 24 hours notice, cleared the bank accounts out, and all the bills were coming out of the bank that morning that he left, and I had zero in the bank. And it was the first time in my life that I wasn't working. And of course, it put me in a position where when you're applying for work, they say, oh, what have you done recently? And you're like, well, I've been at home for a year. So it took me 3 months. I mean, I've got a 30-year work record, so it took me 3 months to get a job, but it meant I had to borrow money off people to survive in those three. And in a way, it kind of exposed him, for who he was. People were sort of going, what? Why would you do that to your wife of 30 years? But the other thing was, then quickly came the smear campaign, and he told lots of people that I was mentally unstable and that it was really difficult to live with me, etc. So I realized in hindsight that he was actually stitching me. He was setting me up a year before he left. So that I was. Oh, well, they say that, don't they? When they discard you, they want you to be in the most difficult position that you could be in.
Yeah.
But as my friend said to me, well, he doesn't really know you, does he? He should know that you always bounce back, because I've been bouncing back for 30 odd years. So
Good. So those behaviors, when they became more drastic on his part, helped you to see the abuse more as abusive behavior.
Oh, for sure. And it was in that year leading up to him leaving that I was beginning to think narcissism. I mean, and the word wasn't even part of my vocabulary up until that point. But I kept thinking there has to be something fundamentally wrong with a man who treats me. And when I do everything, I would do everything and anything, and I do the building works in the house. I put shelves up and just do the male and female role. So I was thinking, what's wrong? And then of course I had friends, like my friends' husbands, and that would go like, oh, what I'd do to have a wife like you, Olivia, that does, you do the gardening, you build fences and gates, and you do stuff that most women would ask their husbands to do.
Right. Cindy, for you, was it a moment or a slow accumulation? I mean, it's been a long marriage.
Definitely a slow accumulation. I think that I'm not a strong woman. So I was always looking for validation. Hard to get that from younger kids, even though they lived with it. I never really had physical abuse, although I would say 3 times. I guess even 30 years ago, there must have been some heated argument, and he wanted me out of the bed, calling it his bed, because I think it was a marriage gift from his parents. And so, yeah, I mean, I should have known. I just really believe I subconsciously did know none of that was right. But I wasn't strong enough. So what has made me grow is probably 12 to 15 years tops at self-discovery, absorbing everything I could possibly get my hands on, and podcasts. And that happened because he gave me a gift. And that was a love bombing moment. That he's not a gift giver. I have never had a decent birthday, never an anniversary. So when I say he gave me a gift, I hate to say that, because it was a love bombing moment to once again see she's crazy. And he called me crazy and mental all my life. But with all of that in those podcasts, I got on to many good ones about narcissists, and then I got on to RENEE. And to me, I told her this, she's the most knowledgeable and down to earth, relatable person. And it's just taken off. And it was like, I had the decision made. That is not to say I'm not waffling, that I would love to fix it, but I'm strong and now, and I will never fix it. I will never go back. And my hope was to get through this now with grace and dignity and try to treat him with respect and hope that we could mediate some items and not have to fight. But the man hasn't spoken a word to me, and my sister died at a young age and with COPD lung problems, and I had to ask my daughter, "Did you tell Dad that she died?" And she always liked it, and she said, "Yeah, I did, Mom." And he could not even text me, "I'm sorry to hear about your sister." I don't expect anything from him. Matter of fact, now I'm worried about how things really will go.
Sure. I'm really sorry to hear about your sister.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that was while that was a day before just a week ago, and I was supposed to leave. So somehow I believe that again in my higher power, that she passed away 2 days before I was supposed to leave for Hawaii for my 70th birthday. And we went, and I had a fabulous time with my daughter. So I'm
Good.
trying to move forward. He keeps coming into my head, but I work on that.
Kick him back out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there was some physical. And I know that wasn't his normal nature, but man, it's scary when that happens.
Sure. Yeah. So with not being able to call this abuse and you guys sharing your stories here, how did it affect your relationship with yourself that we didn't call this abuse? Like, I hear that, well, I just tried harder, or I needed to put in more effort, or I needed to be more perfect. And I hear these things all the time. And so when we're not willing to call them out for their bad behavior, did you guys go through, your own self-judgment then of blaming yourself or doubting yourself in all of this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Anger. I'm trying to forgive myself. I have mantras. I'll look in the mirror and say, "I am enough." And I'm sad. The biggest amend that I need to make is to myself. There's plenty of others. I've made amends to my children for some of what I know they witnessed growing up in this mess, but I'm at the top of the list. And so I did all that hard, critical, and now I just say I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. And now I know more and I'm doing more. And I will never not take care of myself or love myself again. I'm a good person, and they can try to beat that right out of you.
Absolutely. Shannon, how about you? Did this impact your relationship with yourself?
Definitely. And so similar to Olivia, the last couple years of the relationship, I started standing up for myself more and saying what I really felt, or challenging him and different things, because it's like, if it's going to be him and I the rest of our lives, like, this is not working. Like, I can't do this way anymore. So let's see what happens when I start sharing those things. And I still wouldn't push as far as maybe I wanted to, because you learn very quickly to back down, to not make yourself small. I think you say, RENEE, to not make it into one of the big things. But just doing that often enough made me start to realize, like, this is never gonna change. If I don't want to be that woman that I was so much of our marriage anymore, the two of us, this isn't gonna work, and this is not what I want for however many years of my life I have left. And so that gave me the confidence and the willpower to move forward with a divorce. But yeah, I still second guess a lot of things. I still hear him in my head. Told Renee a story the other day. If I dropped a knife on the floor and I heard his voice in my head, and so there is still that type of second guessing. I feel a little Jekyll and Hyde myself because I feel like I was a total different person at work and with my friends, like when he wasn't around versus when I was home with him or he was around, we were doing things together. So I don't know, like I definitely, I guess, lived my more authentic life when he wasn't around. And so now I'm just trying to figure out how to put the two together where I don't have to be so strong all the time and and all of that like I was at work, and allow myself to be a little more vulnerable while knowing that or trusting that the people I'm being vulnerable with won't turn it against me. You know, like my ex did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to find that. I mean, all of us are going to be different in different scenarios. Like, I'm going to be different in my friend group than I am when I'm hanging out maybe with my kids and their friends. Okay, I'm going to be there's a different part of me that's going to show. But the core of who I am is not going to change. Okay, the core of my character, in other words, is not going to change. It's just I'm going to behave differently in different environments. That's normal. But when you're living with a spouse who this is the intimate relationship here, and you can't be your true self, you can't put your guard down and be just spontaneously you, that's a problem.
Yeah, I remember saying to him a couple times towards the end of our relationship too, like I was like, you say you love me, but I don't even think you really like me. Like, because you wouldn't be saying those words. You really talk like that to someone you love. And so, yeah, it was, again, just starting to open my eyes and being able to stand up for myself in that relationship. But yeah, just definitely spending a lot of time figuring out who I am outside of a, full-time mom and being a wife and all of that, and just who is Shannon. So I'm enjoying that part.
It's a fun journey to find you in all of this. So I do hope that's a part of this healing process that you're able to enjoy.
Renee, a statement. I'm feeling excited for the new chapter. I know I'm just starting the process, so it's a lot of yucky stuff first, but I'm not dreading it like I was. Is this the right thing to do? What's right? Can't you just hang in there? You're 70 years old. Who does that? And now I'm like, oh, dear God, every year that is a blessing, that is in peace and serenity. I'm going to do it. I'm getting through.
Good. And that's an inspiration.
You said that. That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah.
So, Olivia, let me bring that question to you then of how did not being able to call this abuse causes us instead to look at ourselves? How did that affect your relationship with yourself?
To be honest, I just thought I was a failure. I was a failure as a wife. I was failing as a mother because I hadn't realized that the triangulation that was, I mean, it used to devastate me that my son and my daughter don't really have a good relationship, and there's only 2 years between them. But now I can say that that was because one of them is the golden child and the other one's the scapegoat. So they're always pitched off each other and they're pitched off me. So it took me, it took about 18 months after he left for me to actually look in.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Mirror and say, I'm great. I'm worthy. I've got a lot of life left in me. I can still keep going. I mean, years and right, very early on into the relationship, I remember putting lipstick on and my husband saying to me, "What have you got that on for?" And I was like, "Oh, I just thought it looks nice." And he said, "Well, who are you trying to attract?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "No one." And he was like, "Well, you're a married woman. You don't need that." So I never wore it. And so anyway, it took about 18 months. But after 18 months, I started wearing lipstick.
But
Good for you.
You go, girl.
And the funny thing is, because years ago, obviously, my daughter asked me, "Why don't you wear lipstick?" And I said, because if I wear lipstick, the traffic stops. Right? And that was my kind of what it was. I always tried to, I grew up in a sort of with an Irish dad who loved telling stories and jokes. And so you'd always kind of make light of this kind of situation.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did. And so the funny thing was that 18 months after my husband, which is only about a year ago, I had this lipstick on and my daughter walked in and she went, "Oh, Mum, you're going to stop the traffic." And I'd said that to her when she was about 6 years old, So,
Wow.
but yeah, so it's about it's taken me a while to kind of start. I know it sounds a bit odd, but start loving myself again and start reminding myself that I'm worth it, and yeah.
It doesn't sound odd at all. Actually, it's incredibly common. And it's a journey that, when you're living in these relationships and you can't call it abuse, for all the reasons we've talked about, instead we reflect it in on ourselves and we decide we're the failure, we're the problem, we're the, too reactive, too emotional, demanding too much, whatever. You can't possibly love yourself and think that you are failing at your marriage at the same time. Like when you lay all of that self-judgment onto yourself, yeah, you lose touch with who you are. And so a huge part of the healing journey is finding yourself again and giving yourself grace in the midst of all of this and being able to call the abuse as abuse. If you guys had been able to call it abuse from the very beginning, do you think your relationship with yourself would have been different?
Because I definitely beat myself up, not anymore, but initially about why did I stay so long and how did I not see it? And I hear stories of people who got out at 3 years or 1 year or whatever. It's like, I wish I could have done that. I think that, but I understand, as Cindy said too, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing is you kind of chat to your friends. I mean, and I'm going back sort of 15 years, like 10 or 15 years into the relationship where you're starting to think something's wrong. You kind of chat to your friends and they'll and then you kind of realize that nobody's got a perfect relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that was one of the things. And because my husband behaved so well in front of people and so charming, it's very difficult to compare yourself with your friends' marriages because nobody has a perfect relationship. And then if you ever complained at all about their behavior, your friends would never see that behavior. So they wouldn't they'd think you're exaggerating or I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen him do that, or because he was so charming in front of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and that just absolutely adds to all of the confusion with all of this. Yeah. But if I had been able from the very beginning to lay the blame where blame belonged which was his choice for his words, his behaviors, his attitudes, I think it would have allowed me to have kept a different perspective, on myself, at the very least on myself, and not lay all the self-judgment on me. But I couldn't. It was just not where I was at that point in my life. For whatever reason that we all bring to the table, it's just not where we were at the time. So we do look back and say, well, I did the best I could with the knowledge I had at the time. And I will never, ever fault somebody for sticking it out in their marriage. Like, that's not a bad trait to have stayed loyal and tried to work through it and dug in and all the things. So I hope that you are finding that grace for yourself, in this journey. So, and all three of you have lengthy marriages. So, okay. So as we wrap this up, is there, what do you want to say to people who are listening and maybe they're still trying to figure it out? Is this abuse? Is this not abuse? What is the message you want to leave with them today?
Just say it doesn't matter if it's abuse or not, if you can label it abuse or not. Like, how does it make you feel? And do you feel, like we talked about, safe in that relationship, safe to be able to be yourself? And if you can't, listen to your gut, because that's one thing I wished I would have done. I couldn't imagine my life without him. And I wish I also would have talked to other people about it in more detail. Like Olivia said, you talk about things, but kind of at a surface level. And I just wish I would have, because I think then talking about it more out loud or with a community of people would have helped me see it earlier, and save some of the things that happened. But just, it doesn't matter if it's abuse, if you can call him a narcissist or not or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just about how you feel.
Yeah, I think I'd say, if you are not feeling loved and you have no joy in your partner, or with your partner, then there's something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think for me that was always, after 20 years. I mean, I was 32 years, but I mean, I remember thinking after 20 years, if he cannot know that I love him by now, then there's something wrong. And then at that point, because you're committed and you've got the children, you want it to work, so you carry on. So it wasn't until the children were old enough to kind of leave home and stuff that you started thinking, there is no joy, and I do not feel loved or respected, or and I think that's and to be honest, the how I'm coping now is to actually, and I don't sound a bit drastic, but to actually say he's mentally ill. He's mentally ill. There's nothing I could have done to make it work. I mean, they do say it is impossible to have a healthy relationship with a covert narcissist. It's impossible. And I'm living proof because I get on with everyone, and I gave it my all. I gave it everything I had. And I think towards the end was when it was really highlighted for me that there is no love and there's no joy. And I do not want to grow any older than I already am with this man,
Yeah. Great message.
Yeah.
Cindy, how about you? What are the words you would want to say to this audience?
Well, it is a lot of the same. I think I recognize the fact now that I was in love with the dream of my marriage. And I fought so hard to keep my marriage, but my marriage wasn't the dream. And yet I still couldn't let go. So I would say, in my case as well, if I would have listened and believed the words that he said to me. He said, I don't love you. He said, this is a business deal. He said many things that I should have taken, but I was hanging on to the dream. I can admit now, I don't love him. I will always care about him, which is maybe I'll get over that. But right now I'm in the throes of this. And it's okay for me in my mind now to care about him because he had some good attributes and a hard worker, provided for the family. But I should have seen, I should have known, and I should have, or wish I would have had the self confidence and cared about myself. I used to beg him, we're supposed to love and respect each other. Well, you've got to earn respect. And I would not want that for anyone. So sometimes we have to listen to the words that are being spoken to us. And those were words without even the verbal part of it. My husband used to cuss and swear at me all the time. So just words like that mean it's okay to throw in the towel because he doesn't love you. And he doesn't. And then the other thing that I would say, which is basically kind of what I got from RENEE, is it's okay for me to get over it, having taken 49 years. It is never too late, no matter what your situation, how old or how long you've been married. If you get to your truth, then it's okay to start over. And I would wish anybody to say it's never too late to start again.
I think that's a beautiful message, Cindy, and I think you are 100% right. It is never too late to start the rest of your life. Like, it's never too late. Today is the first day of the rest of your life.
I just want to say, RENEE, what an absolute, it was such a relief when I listened to the first Covert Narcissist podcast and I found it, and this was only last year. And I found it and listened to it, and I thought it was just so reassuring. It was just like, oh my word, this lady knows exactly what we are going through. And I think there's something really special about a personal experience.
Yes.
It's like you said, like, you make it quite clear, I am not an expert, I'm not, but you've got lived experience, and the lived experience is so relatable for anyone else who has got lived experience.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've still got friends and family who think that, I've had to stop. I've stopped saying I say he's mentally ill and he's got a personality disorder, and but people don't want to hear that. They're just like, I think Olivia's making excuses for what, for being happy that she's divorced now. Do you know what I mean? But because it's difficult for people. It's really, and I think because he still plays this role, and of course my mum, she just said, don't speak about it and don't say that, because she is so frightened that we're going to lose the relationship between my son and daughter.
Right.
Right. And so that is really important that we don't lose, because he's constantly, my ex-husband is constantly still playing this triangulation game and, just talking nonsense about grandma and things like that,
Right.
And so mum's really, really scared that she's going to lose her grandchildren. I've got the only grandchildren, so they're her only grandchildren. And so I have to be, you still kind of I feel like I'm still walking on eggshells around my two adult kids, because I have to be careful about what I say. But one of the things that I am very adamant about is that I show them that I'm doing all right. I've got
Good.
my friends and I've got my job and I'm doing,
Good.
I'm
Good.
happy. And I think it's really important because they can see their dad's a loner and he's very miserable and earns a huge sum of money, and sits in this house on his own and has no friends. And, and I think that, as my mum keeps saying, that, your lives will speak for themselves to the children eventually. Like the children they might be in their late 20s, but there will be a point where they go, well, look at mum and look at dad, because they were happy that we split, because the family was so tense in the family, So I just thank you so much, because I think you're doing a massive service to women and men. I know that there's 25% women apparently covert narcissists, Yeah, and I think because his mum is definitely an overt. I didn't even know there were differences between the narcissists. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep, there are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, and it's quite evident to me that my mother-in-law was an overt narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have known because she walked into our wedding bed when we were both naked. And that was my first experience of mother-in-law. And yeah.
Lovely.
And the first thing that happened after that was my husband said it didn't happen. And I was
Oh,
like,
lovely. So there's a boundary violation and gaslighting on your wedding night. Great.
Yep.
Great start to a marriage. So, all right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your stories. This is how we start reaching those people who are still looking for answers and trying to sort this all out. And I love these community chats because it allows other people to share their experiences. And you guys are going to say things differently than I do. And so your words are going to resonate with somebody in a way that my words didn't, and vice versa. And so I just love that it's becoming such an awesome community of people who are here to help each other. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
As we wrap up part 2, I want you to hear the thread that ran through every story. You are not crazy, and you are not weak, and you are definitely not alone. When you've been living with covert narcissistic dynamics such as gaslighting, blame shifting, charm in public, emotional withdrawal in private, it makes sense that it took time for you to be able to name it. It did for all of us. And if you're still trying to figure out whether you should stay or go, remember what you heard today. Pay attention to how you feel in this relationship. Do you feel safe? Do you feel respected? Do you feel like you can be yourself without punishment? Your body already knows the answer to these questions. Your body knows what your mind has been trained to doubt or can't quite accept yet. Your story matters. You deserve to be heard without judgment. And if you are ready to take the next step towards healing, check out my coaching services at covertnarcissism.com. Don't forget to subscribe for more empowering episodes like this one. And if you feel so inclined, I would ask you to go hit that 5-star rating, only if that is really how you feel. This podcast is for the survivors of covert narcissistic abuse. You help make this community what it is. And by sharing those reviews and the subscriptions and sharing this podcast with people in your life that you think would benefit from it, you are helping to continue spreading the word so that our world can see this for what it is. Thank you for being here and for being a part of this community. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. If there were ever an audience that I wish did not have to exist, it would be this one, because of what it means you've lived through. I'm truly sorry that you understand this so deeply, and I'm really glad that you're here. May this be a place of safety, clarity, and peace. You are not alone anymore, and you don't have to figure this out by yourself. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And if you'd like to learn more about the support, resources, or coaching that is available for you, you can visit covertnarcissism.com. While I hate it for everyone who understands what I am talking about, I'm really glad that you're here, and I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those that she has worked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and the information provided. Thank you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.